This is a review of the TTartisan 75mm f2 autofocus lens. This lens offers a moderately long focal length that I find pretty versatile. It's great for portraits, street photography and general photography too, and it comes at a budget-friendly price. This is a full-frame lens for Sony E mount and Nikon Z mount cameras, but it can be used on APS-C cameras too, where it gives an equivalent focal length of 110mm or thereabouts, useful for gaining even more reach. This is a very nicely built lens with a high quality feel. Everything turns cleanly and smoothly, all the tolerances are tight, there's no play in any of the controls, and it feels like a high quality piece of kit. There's a nice big aperture ring on the barrel, something that I was pleased to see. Optically, this lens is very nice indeed, especially considering its low price. Colour is strong and vibrant with good depth. It's not oversaturated, giving instead what we might call naturalistic colours. Colours feel solid and substantial with plenty of body and depth. It's a slightly cool lens, giving colours pushed just slightly towards the blue end, something that personally I rather like. This is a sharp lens, wide open, sharp enough to shoot that way all day long if you want maximum background blur, and that's how I shot it for most of the time I used it. Just like any lens, it becomes sharper as you stop it down, and it's bitingly sharp at f8. This lens gives a nice sharp image with lots of soft background blur. It's a modern lens in this regard and gives a very modern aesthetic. I shot this lens on a Sony A7 Mark I, a camera famous for its slow autofocus speed, so I'm probably not testing the lens to its limits. However, autofocus worked fine 99% of the time, and despite my first generation camera, it never seemed slow. There were one or two occasions when it hunted a little and couldn't find focus, but that was in low light. In general, day-to-day, real-world situations, autofocus worked well. Background blur is very nice indeed from this lens, and wide open, it can fairly be described as a blur monster. It's a long lens, so blur persists at longer distances, isolating the subject from the background. Blur is generally soft and lovely, although there are a couple of points where it can sometimes turn a little rough. It's easy enough to get around this by adjusting your distances a little. Point light sources in the background give round bokeh bubbles in the centre, changing to cat's eye shapes at the sides, and blur from this lens is generally nice, soft and consistent. There isn't a great deal of chromatic aberration from this lens, although like most lenses there is some. It's most noticeable when shooting thin lines against a bright light like the sky. The small amount we see here isn't enough to bother me, but in any case it's easy enough to correct in post. This is a great little lens. It's sharp with plenty of nice background blur, it gives good colour, and it comes in at a good price too. A very nice portrait and general photography lens from TTartisan.